Welcome back to the Mixed Views Quick Talks. This is our second episode. The first one
Was not a quick talk.
was not a quick talk, but we're still considering this our second episode. It is me and Humna, like always.
Sorry, I'm dying.
Babe, what are we talking about today?
Well, apparently, people suspect that Bert and Ernie off of Sesame Street may or may not be gay. I think they are. From all
the background information I know, do not think they are gay. And I'm not doing it from a subtextual point of view. I'm doing it from a production point of view. So, if you didn't hear, this past week, a former writer from Sesame Street did an interview with an LGBT-based magazine or some type of...
Yeah, I believe so.
Called Queerty.
Don't you have it pulled up?
I do, but I just want to make sure I'm saying it right, because it's Queerty. Yeah, Queerty. Okay, Queerty. And he said that when he was writing for Sesame Street, he wrote Bert and Ernie as a loving couple, and he based it off of his own relationships and with another guy, I think he was a producer at some point in his...
Yeah, but he produced other stuff.
Yeah, so I forgot what character he said he was and what character he said.
I believe in the article he said he was Bert and
his
partner was Ernie.
I think that sounds right.
Somewhere I read it said, like, I guess his name and Ernie's name kind of sound the same.
Yeah, because his name was Arnold, and they called him Arnie. And But I don't think he's the one who created the character, so I think that might have just been a coincidence.
That's what I was going to say. I think it was just a coincidence. But I think they're gay.
Well...
That's the second time saying it. And I don't know if it's maybe because I read the article and I kind of already assumed it, and then, you go look at the videos and all of a sudden, the light shines and you can see those little subtle things. I don't know if it's that, but when I was a kid, obviously, I didn't really care.
Well, yeah, so...
But just looking at the title without reading anything, I kind of figured that they were. They have if not gay, then they have a very close bromance.
So, over the years, since the show has been created in 1969, and they're like the two original characters that actually made it into the pilot and are still around today.
Uh-huh.
Over the years, there have been rumors and... people have pointed out different things that made them believe that Bert and Ernie were secretly closeted gay couple.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether you believe that or not, Sesame Street says it isn't true. They deny the allegation by the writer and says...
And they also said something like none of the puppets have a gender or something like that.
No, they have genders. None of them have a sexual orientation.
There you go.
Which, okay, I see this from two different ways, because I've seen arguments that that's a load of crap because other characters have partners or have shown to be parents or have kids. Mm-hmm. So how do they not have sexual orientation, whether it's spoken or not, if they have partners or girlfriends? Girlfriends, because there isn't.
I'm thinking about it as when I was a kid, okay? So you're watching, you got Big Bird, who I always assumed was a boy. You've got Elmo, who I always assumed was a boy. You've got Bert and Ernie. I assumed they were boys. I don't even remember any females, because those were like my top 4 favorites. I always assumed as a kid they were boys. And as I grew older, I was like, okay, so boys have this and girls have that. So obviously the guys have this. I mean, obviously I figured that they were just puppets, but I assumed they have a male voice. They dress in a male way. They would have their sexual orientation, I guess, in that case, would be male.
What? their?
No.
Are you talking about their gender? Because you were talking for a minute there. You were talking about gender, and then all of a sudden.
I know, but I'm trying to explain. When I was a kid, watching the show, I assumed, okay, the boy characters are boys.
Well,
and their sexual orientation are boys. I'm saying when I was younger.
What do you think sexual orientation means?
Isn't it all the pansexual and trans and queer and all of that?
So who they prefer?
Yeah.
Oh, so as a kid you thought they preferred other boys?
Oh, no. Oh, I guess I did say that wrong then.
Yeah, because
I assumed they were boys and they wanted girls.
No, because what I heard was their sexual orientation was boys, and I'm thinking, okay, so as a kid you thought they were.
So if I said that wrong, I assumed Elmo, Big Bird, Bert, and Ernie were all boys.
Right.
And
Correct.
I wasn't really aware when I was little that guys can like guys and all of that, so I assumed that being that they were boys, they liked girls.
Okay.
I didn't question their sexual orientation until never until right now.
Yeah. No, I heard the rumors, but I never really looked into questioning it. Nor did I really care.
Older, watching the shows with the younger kids, I would see stuff like, and then I'd be like, huh, that's a little questionable.
What do you think about Sesame Street saying that they're just puppets?
I mean, they are.
And they don't have sexual orientations.
I don't know. When they're puppets, literally, they are fabric.
Yeah.
So as far as that part, yes, I don't think they have. I guess technically they don't even have a gender because, like I said, they don't have peepees and they don't have none of that women have. So when it comes to literal meaning, yes. I mean, when it comes to how their character developed, no. I think they do have sexual orientation because of their character development.
So, do you know that there are Sesame Street is one of the greatest shows for promoting different stigmas to make it seem normalized? They have an HIV positive Muppet or Sesame Street character, right?
Yeah.
And there's now a character with autism.
Yeah.
So an argument that I read about this morning was if they wanted a homosexual couple or character on the show, don't you think they would do it or bring it on themselves and say when there is? Or
I think, and I feel like my main argument is going to be the writer of these characters said that he based their characteristics and how they felt about each other based on him and his partner. So I feel the only reason why they're denying it so much is because he kind of subtly put all of this in there for so long.
I think an important point to be made is that...
You didn't charge the laptop, by the way.
Oh. I think an important point to be made is...
Isn't it the other side?
Yeah, it is the other side. Like, why isn't it? An important point to be made about this is that it was a single writer...
Yes.
...who took it upon himself to do this in a subtle way and not include it as part of the production. So the reason I say that they're not gay is because it was influenced by one. It wasn't influenced by the entire production storyline. That's why I say they're not gay, because...
Okay, so you're saying because it was only one person and not all of them informed.
Even though he was a writer and he had a hand in creating these episodes, I believe that since he did it secretly, and I don't say that in a mischievous way. I say that as in, like, to point out that he's the only one that, as far as we know, knew about his idea to do this. That as a production and as what is the reality of it, I don't believe that they are gay. Okay. And that almost sounds weird. Like, why are we discussing if puppets are, or a TV show of puppets are homosexuals? But that's just what I believe.
My question to that is, okay, so let's say he is the only one that actually put these certain references in one episode. And, you know, it still has to go through another group of people and all that. Obviously, no one else either caught it or didn't like what he wrote because it ended up to the show.
But you told me earlier before we started recording that kids are thinking about it in a kid's perspective. Adults are thinking about it in an adult perspective, right?
Right. I mean, if you go...
Now, hold on. The reason nobody is catching it or everybody's missing it, it's not because they're not smart enough to see it. It's because these people have to think like kids in order to make a kid's show. If you're not thinking like a kid, I mean, you're making an educational program. You have to think what is teachable, and you can you're not going to sexualize things when you're making these every episode. Mm-hmm. And you're not going to catch those things because you're not in that state of mind. You're in the state of mind as I'm a kid, or at the very most, I'm a teacher, and I need to teach these kids something. So if you go on Vox right now, Vox.com, they have a great lengthy article that I haven't read fully, but I've read most of it. And they have a couple of clips in there of Bert and Ernie, and the first one and the only one that I saw was a scene. Let me see what the video is called.
That was the bathtub one.
It's Ernie shows Bert how to plan for a bath. Okay, now if you watch through the whole thing, it's Bert bringing in a couple of different items. He brings in his soap, his towel, his rubber ducky. Umbrella, all seems normal. Then he brings in a flashlight, an umbrella, and a bowling ball. Now, to me, that was just... Bert as a character is kind of just out there, imaginatively wise. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I said that right. So to me, that was just Bert being his character. And Ernie, his response was being his character. He was like, why are you doing that? That's so weird. And, you know, Bert's this innocent, bubble-minded character that it just... I didn't think anything of it. And then you pointed out that the flashlight was supposed to, you said the flashlight, babe, and I'm like, what about it? And you said, well, he would, you know what they can do with that. And I'm thinking,
I didn't say it that way.
Well, I know you, but in general, that's what you were pushing at.
When it comes to that, I think the only reason why I thought that is because I had read most of this article now. My thing to you to retaliate that is, okay, so everybody's thinking in a childlike mind.
But hold on, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I didn't finish my point, actually.
Hurry up.
My point was, when the writers and the producers and the directors were creating this scene, I don't think they saw the intent of a flashlight being subtextualized as, let's just say it, a dildo. Mm-hmm. I don't believe they saw it that way. And if a writer, let's say this guy, wrote it in there as that, let's say he wrote the scene, I can't say he did, let's say he wrote it, and maybe he thought that, I don't think that they missed that. I think that they just said, okay, Bert is a bubble-minded character, and of course he would bring a flashlight, an umbrella, and a bowling ball into the bathroom. I just think they saw it as a well-rounded scene where Ernie could respond and that is the silliest idea I've ever heard. Mm-hmm. Okay. My point is made.
Okay. So he wrote it, people looked it over, they made the scene already, and people are watching it. Uh-huh. You mean to tell me even now, all these people that have been a part of making Sesame Street, you know, the ones that are still obviously alive and all that, if they go back and watch it, you mean they can't find those subtle meanings?
I'm not saying they can't. I'm just saying they weren't looking for them because that's not...
I don't think anybody was looking for them, but to sit here and blatantly ignore them and try and cover it up and lie and be like, yeah, no, that's...
Well, why do you say they're ignoring them?
Because they said that he's not gay.
So you're saying their response in saying that they're just puppets and they have no sexual orientation, they're covering it up.
I feel like they are, yes.
Okay, I can work with that because
you know, you're right. Maybe when they were producing this, yes, they had the childlike mindset, which is what they should have. But if you look back on it now, you can see those little hints, and to just sit here and be like, yeah, no, like you can sit here and be like, that was not my intention. I would agree with that. But to sit here and deny that it's even there, I don't agree.
I would say Sesame Street doesn't have to say that wasn't their intention because it wasn't them. It was one, as we know, or with all the information we have, it was one single person doing it on their own. It wasn't them.
And you keep going back to that. But my thing is, people had to review what he wrote.
And I told you why they didn't catch it.
I don't know. I think they're gay. I see it.
That bathroom scene, like, I just watched that one bathroom scene. I got to watch all the rest of the videos. But that one bathroom...
The second video was them, it's a Christmas episode or something, and that one I don't really see as much as a sexual reference, because it's like, okay, I'm sacrificing something I love for you. That could, I mean, I guess that's just a strong affection. That could be really anything. I mean, I've sacrificed my personal things for the kids, and I know I've sacrificed certain things for you as my partner. So that one I think is just a general. Now, if there's any more videos in the article, I didn't see them. But I think the first one is the only one that I saw that really had that.
Let me bring this hypothetical to you. Let's say Bert and Ernie were female characters. That Christmas scene where they give their greatest personal possession to each other. If they were female characters and did that, would people be saying, oh, that's similar? Because in the Vox article, it references a movie that it's kind of like, and in the movie they weren't they gay in the movie? It was
a gay couple, and they sacrificed things for each other.
Okay, so let's say they were female characters, and the only thing that was different was in the movie that they were gay male characters,
right?
And here they were
female
regular female characters. Would people be referencing this and saying, oh, they might be lesbians?
See, I don't even think that, but that's what I'm saying. I don't think that one video has any indication of their sexual orientation. To me, like I said, it's just, I'm sacrificing something for you. I do that for my sisters. I do that for my brothers. I do that for you. I don't see any sexual orientation got to do with that, because to me, it's just, I have a strong love for you. So if that means I've got to sit here and cut grass to make money to get you a present, I'm going to do that. If I've got to sit here and give away, let's say, my favorite necklace to get Amina something, I'd do that. If I've got to do something for the kids, I'd do it. That's what I'm saying. I don't think that episode particularly has anything to do with Bert and Ernie necessarily being gay in any way. I think they're just trying to show they have a strong love, which doesn't help the argument, I guess. You can have a strong love for anyone and not either be sexually attracted to them or anything like that.
Right. So Frank Oz, who was a puppeteer, and worked alongside Jim Henson. So those two puppeteered Bert and Ernie. They were the Jim Henson, I think, was Ernie, and Frank Oz was Bert. But Frank Oz came out with a comment of his own, and it says, it's fine if and the writer's name, by the way, I don't think we ever mentioned it. It's Mark Saltzman. And he said, it seems Mr. Saltzman was asked if Bert and Ernie are gay. Oz said, it's fine that he feels that they are, but they're not, of course. But why that question? Does it really matter? Why do we need to define people as only gay? There's much more to being human than just straightness or gayness. Now, that's true, but this to me brings up a good point in the idea of perception. So even if Sesame Street doesn't see these two characters as gay, because that's from the time that they started this series in 1969 till now,
right?
That wasn't the storyline's intention. But people identify with, just like the TV shows you watch or the TV shows I watch, we watch those
because we find similarities in the characters. Yes,
we find similarities. So maybe
you saying they only became gay because people could relate?
It's possible that, maybe a closeted gay man saw their relationship as like, if I had a partner, this is what I want my relationship to be like.
Yeah.
Like this would be good for me.
I could see that.
And so maybe he perceived them as gay, or maybe he just perceived the situation as something he liked and he could relate to. Or even like the relationship that he might have been in that.
But see, that's what I'm saying. Like, the first video that they show in that Vox article, in my opinion, it shows that either they have a very strong bromance, or like you said, Bert is just this bubbly character, or they are gay.
And
as far as the second video that you see, I keep saying I don't see any subtle sexual orientation comments. To me, it's just love.
In my opinion, the bath time video, I saw no such.
But
I saw from what I know Sesame Street to be.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a scene where Bert was pointing out you don't need these things to take a bath.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was saying, okay, like at the beginning, he was like, okay, Bert's got his soap. He could be doing this. And then Bert's got a towel. He could be washing his face.
He brought his rubber ducky.
Now I know he's taking a bath.
Right.
So he was trying, like, he was pointing out the steps, like, okay, if you're going to take a bath, you need your soap, your towel, and your rubber ducky.
Right.
And then the rest of it was just, to add some character to Bert and to the scene.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think that's what the rest of the scene was. I saw nothing in there that said sexual.
I'm pretty sure kids that saw that scene, they were like, oh my God, he's doing that. I'm just saying, it also, I think, has to do with the fact that I've read the article already. We've both read the article. And, me, I instantly saw that little subtle thing. Now, whether it was actually the flashlight or it was the bar of soap in the very first thing, I don't know.
I think everybody who listens to this or wants to know more information, you should read that Vox article, because it's got a lot of information in it. It's got a lot of examples. But don't just read that one, because that one is very geared towards the idea that they are gay.
And that's what I'm saying. That also might be why I'm thinking, because that was the only one I had a chance to read.
So
I already read an article that's a little biased, and then I saw the videos, and I'm like, oh, the bar of soap, the flashlight, all of this, I guess. And you, on the other hand, you had a chance to research this, because I was supposed to read them last night. So you've actually gotten other viewpoints. Now, I'm also thinking as far as when I watch the show with the kids. Like when I'd watch cartoons with Chipmunk, even I didn't mean to cartoon. Even SpongeBob, I love me some SpongeBob. Even SpongeBob sitting there watching with him, he's just thinking Patrick's and SpongeBob are doing stupid stuff to irritate Squidward, whereas I may think, okay, that's a little subtle right there, or something like that. You see what I'm saying?
I think SpongeBob is an entirely different production.
But my point being is, I guess technically I didn't do my good job, because I already gathered an opinion based on the one article.
I know.
So sorry on my part.
That's
even
okay.
Just
but
my personal experience, I still think they could possibly be gay.
My take is that they are not gay, and the reason for that is, I'm thinking about it from an entire production standpoint, and individualizing Sesame Street and this writer and what he said. And I think production-wise and storyline intentions is that the entire enterprise of Sesame Street intended for Bert and Ernie not to be gay. And this one writer wrote them or sexualized them in his own personal way.
My thing is, I'm just trying to figure out, okay, let's say they were not meant to be sexualized in this way, and they just have a strong bromance. Ain't nothing wrong with a bromance. Let's say that's all that they were supposed to have. And, now people are kind of like seeing little things. Okay, why wouldn't they just agree with it? Because if you can see them, whether you meant it or not, it'd be easier on them, since they already included, the HIV character and the autistic character. Why not just include them as well?
Maybe they just have a stronger connection, because you also have to realize the timing of when Sesame Street came out. It came out in the late 60s.
Right. And in the article, it was the whole AIDS epidemic.
Well, it's not even about yes, the AIDS epidemic definitely played into the idea that being gay at that time was dangerous or evil.
Right, but I'm saying now they added all these other characters. So if
So
people are seeing these kind of things, why don't they just say, okay,
so
you know what,
you have to also look at the intent or the timeline of when these videos came out, because the acceptance of homosexuality is still fairly new.
Yes.
To some people.
I get that.
And so that bath time video or that Christmas video are old.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I can't combine this writer with Sesame Street. And I know I keep going back to that, but that's just how I see it. I can't.
Yeah, you see it as the two of them being separate. My thing is that may be true. He may be just one writer out of however many.
And it's not just.
But when they chose to make that scene, a group of people, whoever they are, who produced that scene, put that message in there, whether they realized it or not.
I have to disagree with you, because you're blaming. I think you're giving too much blame to everybody else in that production studio.
I'm not trying to blame anybody. I'm just saying it's there, and we can see
I think you're also giving too much credit to the one writer.
Okay, so let's say it wasn't. I'm just saying you're sitting here and you're separating the writer from the producer, which makes sense. Yes, two different categories. I also don't even think that it was just him. I think there's a group of writers.
Obviously, I'm separating him because he had his own idea in his own head that he wasn't communicating amongst the rest of the writing or director staff. So if it's just him,
mm-hmm.
then how real is it? Except for in his head, how real could it be if he's the one directing this writing? It can't be real to everybody else because it's not in their heads.
Okay.
It's only in his head. That's why I see it this way. I see it this way because he was secretive about it, as far as we know.
Okay, so my question is, let's say he never officially made the statement that yes, he perceived Bert and Ernie as him and his partner. What if he never said that? And yet you still had people now being like, are they gay? You know, there's this subtle little stuff going on in there, and Sesame Street still denied it. Would you agree with that?
Yes, because ultimately I think majority rules in this case. And
majority of what?
Sesame Street as a whole versus Mark Saltzman.
I know, but I'm saying he never said anything. The hypothetical is Mark Saltzman never
Oh, you
said
mean even
anything.
now?
Yes.
now.
He never had that interview. He never
Well, then
that
it's even easier for Sesame Street to say no. Because that's just because
I get that
Sesame Street
no.
could
I'm
be.
saying, do you agree if they would say no and you saw these subtle things?
From my, I know what you're saying. Okay. I know what you're saying, and I'm thinking about it because it's you just brought up a new idea in my head.
Okay.
You're right, because if you think it, now we can bring up SpongeBob. You know, nobody's ever said SpongeBob has inappropriate context to it,
mm-hmm.
but you can point out all the different things and relate it to those, even though the SpongeBob staff has never said, yes, this is on purpose. Yes, if you're an adult and you're hearing this, this was meant for you to think that way. It was meant to put these ideas in your head, even though it's supposed to be a kid's show.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to say I don't know what my opinion would be if he never spoke out. Because if I saw... Now, again, that bath time video, it's still hard. It would still, in my head, even if he didn't say anything, it would still be hard for me to say, yeah, I saw that video very sexualized between the two.
See, now you're making it sound like I thought... No, my thought was, after reading the first portion of the article and, you know, him saying, you know, he wrote it based off of him and his partner, I was like, okay, let's see. And then you see the episode and it's like, okay, well, he's got a soap. And, you know, already being that we're grown adults, my first thing is drop the soap. Okay. And then after all that, I was like, oh, he just go ahead and take a bath. You know, everybody deserves a bath. And then he brings a flashlight in. And I'm like, okay. Flashlight, yeah, because you know my mind goes to cucumbers, and I'm like, okay, and then he brings in all the other shit, and I'm like, what the is he doing?
I'm
And
rolling
then
my
they
eyes, by the
explain.
way, because I know you can't see.
And then he explains, and I was like, huh. That's interesting.
No. I had a point after you said all that, but I was just... I don't know. Bottom line is, Humna thinks they are gay. I think that they are not. And you're
Okay,
right. You're right. No, hold on. This is what my point was going to be. You're right. If he never said anything and we didn't have two sides arguing against each other, you're right. Maybe I could see some of this evidence as pointing toward or seeing the side that they are. But knowing the two sides' stances, somebody who was there as a writer, although writing his own subtle ideas, and this production studio's intentions, you're right. Maybe I could see the evidence. But knowing the two sides now, I believe that. I believe Sesame Street as saying that, no, they're not. And I think the point that needs to be made is, well, no, I already made that
I
point.
get what you're saying. I think the only reason why I disagree with you is you're really separating these writers from the producers. And I get why you would, but at the end of the day, I'm not even talking about after they finish making this episode. I'm talking about later on. You mean to tell me these people never watched Sesame Street with their own kids? And they never sat down with them and was like, oh, yeah. And then what the hell did we just put in there? You don't think anyone ever thought like that?
Oh, I'm not saying that, because obviously they are. Because otherwise these rumors wouldn't be popping up.
I don't know. I think Bert and Ernie have such character development where, honestly, they've always had this strong bromance that it would I feel like it would benefit Sesame Street to just say that they are gay. Just say it. They have such strong character connections. You're so all about including. You've got all these other different kinds of characters. So just say it for your own benefit. It's not like it's going to hurt that bad.
No. And I don't want to go too much longer because we're already at 31 minutes.
Oh, my God.
32, actually, so.
Your closing argument.
Well, it's only a closing argument on your last point. I would disagree with that because with how long Sesame Street has been around, I believe that making two of the original characters
gay
would create a lot of, and in our day and age, it would probably pass over eventually, but it would hurt probably a lot of the viewership that grew up watching this. And I'm not saying this as a bad thing, that Sesame Street shouldn't do this because it would hurt them. Mm-hmm. I'm saying this as knowing the world and our culture and how people react now. If you made Bert and Ernie, knowing who they are and what they mean to this program, gay, it would change the perception and the perspective of the millions of people that grew up watching this show.
Right, but we're already grown, so what does it matter?
It matters because it changes something about somebody's childhood, and that's when you start to have people question, like... And
so you think... I'm asking a question. So you think if they did, for time's sake, say yes, Bert and Ernie are gay, they just had a strong bromance, blah, 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 that it would have other people... You know, the kids like you and me who grew up watching Sesame Street question ourselves because of this?
Not question ourselves, no. Just question what we were watching as kids.
I'm pretty sure I've always questioned stuff that I've been watching as kids.
And I think it would help Sesame Street more if they just created, just like they had with the HIV character and the autism character, if they just created...
A
new gay couple or gay character.
Okay, well, if they did that, I'd just say maybe they should just clarify and just be like, yeah, Bert and Ernie just got a strong bromance.
Well, they should, and they did. That first statement that they put out, they deleted it, and then they gave another statement saying that they're all about inclusion and...
Yeah, but see, even that one, you're all about inclusion. People can obviously kind of get the idea that they're gay and yet you're not including them and saying that they are gay.
Because
So
they
even
don't
that
they
text,
don't
I
believe that. They don't believe that they wrote it that way. They believe that one person wrote it that way, and that the majority of them don't believe that, so it's not what it is.
Okay. We just gonna have to agree to disagree on this one.
Mm-hmm.
I love you still.
I love you too.
I hug you.
Okay.
Okay, well.
Thanks for listening today.
Hopefully, if you guys are going to form an opinion, you check out that Vox article. But don't make the mistake that I did.
Read general articles about the situation and read other articles that say that point that they're not, or that give both sides.
Right, because honestly, I didn't even think that it was that strong until we started talking about it. I was like, yeah. Maybe that shouldn't have been the first article I read.
Vox is very biased that they are. So, thanks for listening. Keep listening. Listen to our other episodes. Go to our website, 2.network.com.
Tell us what you think down below. Follow our social media.
Contact us if you want about anything. And
correct us if we're wrong on anything.
Correct us. Comment on our reactions. So,
it's not really a quick talk, but it's shorter than last time.
It's shorter than last
time. Next week. Bye.